AskReddit by Ivan the Incredible. What loophole did you exploit before someone found out? When in high school there was a company that offered money to run an advertising window at the top of your screen. It would monitor mouse movement to track whether you were at your computer and pay a small amount per hour. A buddy and I downloaded it into mouse moving software and would run both 24/7, except when we were on the computer. Made a few $100s off of it before the company closed down. Gee, I wonder why the company closed down. My old apartment complex had a soda vending machine at the pool that was broken. If you put in 50 cents and pressed the button, nothing happened. If you put in another 50 cents and pressed the button, nothing happened. But if you put 50 cents in a third time and pressed the button, you get 3 sodas. I could see the vending machine from my couch. So I would watch for someone to try, and then try again, and then give up without trying a third time. And then I'd head over and get 3 sodas for 50 cents. There was a vending machine in my college dorm that if you have it a dime it would slip through to the coin return instantly but still count the credit for the dime. So as long as you had 1 dime, everything was free. I learned before my USAF basic training to say that I played an instrument whenever they asked the group on the first day. I raised my hand and lied, the cymbals. So most days I got to angrily smash cymbals together in the air-conditioned band trailer, instead of marching drill practice in the San Antonio summertime sun. Similar story, only visual arts. I was an art school dropout before joining the Air Force. My recruiter had warned me of the dangers of raising your hand when they ask questions like who likes bowling, so I had avoided volunteering for anything until they asked if anyone had any artistic ability. I groaned and sheepishly raised my hand. Turns out my TI wanted a new mural painted in the barracks. So while everyone else in my flight was cleaning the barracks, doing KP or other crappy tasks, I was happily painting away. I made sure to stretch it out so that I didn't finish it until everyone else was packing up after graduation. When I was in middle school, Pepsi did a thing where if you bought a 20-ounce soda, there was a decent chance the cap would say you were a winner on the inside, and you could exchange it for another 20 ounces. Problem is, a dark-colored soda like Pepsi is reflective. Hold the bottle slightly tilted and you could look at the reflection of the inside of the cap. For a whole school year I didn't pay for soda. Bought a winner, and every day I'd exchange the cap at a gas station I passed on the way home for another winner. Eventually Pepsi caught on, and instead of it saying you won on the cap itself, there would be a code you had to enter online. We didn't have the internet in our pocket in those days, and it wouldn't have been worth it to read and enter multiple backwards codes for a soda if we had, so this ended the scheme. Sprite did this when I was young. My friends and I got banned from our local grocery store because we would go through every bottle looking for winners. Buffalo Wild Wings used to have a check-in thing. Check in enough times and you get a free meal. The office I worked in was close enough, geographically, that I could check in from there without physically going to the restaurant. A bunch of co-workers and I had an alarm to check in every day, and then once we all had the free meal, we'd go there for lunch. I got probably 4 or 5 free meals out of it before BWW revamped that system. When I was in college I was working at our student union and found a stack of coupons for a local BBQ chain. You could get an appetizer with the purchase of a soda, so we would all go over there, and we made friends with this one waitress who would bring in a sampler as an appetizer so we could get like 4 apps included when we bought our soda. She worked every Tuesday night, so that was our night to head there. We went for months until one of the guys in our crew took her back to his dorm room and her fiancé found out. Coca-Cola did a campaign where you register a code from the bottle cap and earn prizes. I worked at a store with bottle deposit and earned myself a sweet MP3 player with room for 5 songs or something. I was the only one I knew that had a MP3 player, so it was pretty sweet at the time. I remember when 128 millibars was more songs than I needed and could listen for hours. A new fast food place opened near my work. My mother-in-law got me a gift card to the place as a birthday gift. I went on opening day and tried to use my gift card. They said the system wasn't in place yet and just gave me my food for free. This worked for almost a month. It was the best gift card I ever had. Started with $20 on it and I got at least $100 worth of food. You think they'd take and cut the card or something? Had a college professor that insisted on doing all tests and quizzes online. If you looked at the page through view page source, all of the answers for each multiple answer question had a marker on which one was correct. For a while, quizzes made in Canvas would do a weird thing if you had an ad blocker installed where the correct answer to a multiple choice question would be really big compared to the other options. I don't pretend to understand it, but I passed a few uni quizzes that I otherwise would not have with that one. Back when physical media video rentals were still a thing, we were gifted a Blockbuster gift card for a free rental. The card proved to be unbreakable. Every time we rented a movie I would hand the clerk the card. They would scan the barcode on the card, hand the card back, and the movie was free. We used the card for about 3 years until our local Blockbuster closed. There was obviously some sort of software error, but the gift card was never ejected. So you are the reason for Blockbuster's bankruptcy then? I once got a cat dog piggy bank by clicking their online game's next button repeatedly for more points. It was the second prize, but it was the neatest thing ever. One fine day with a woof and a purr. Taco Bell had a $5 box deal to win a PS4 before it was released to the public. I found that towards the end of the promotion you could enter to win without purchasing a $5 box. You could only enter once per phone number and address. Also the rewards were time-based. Every 15 minutes someone would win. I woke up every night at 3:16 AM and entered 4 times, using my home, work, and my mother-in-law's home and work numbers and addresses. After about a week I was about to stop and I won. I had a PS4 3 days before the public could even buy them. The next year I did the same thing and won a second PS4 for the kids' game room. After that they changed the rules slightly to make it much harder to game the system. Every contest that has a pay to win, at least in the US I think, also has to have a free way to enter. I used to work for Sears as a teen. When someone came in without the rewards program, I would just put my own info in. That way my sales percentage for awards members didn't drop, and I got all of their points. The amount of coupons and free money was insane, especially when I was working back in the tools department. I didn't stop until they started upgrading their ancient point of sale system. I also had an employee discount of 20% on soft lines, clothes, home, etc., and 10% on hard lines, tools, which they didn't take away for a few years after I quit. When I was at Sears, I apparently forgot to clock out for lunch one day. When I went to clock in from lunch, the time clock told me I missed a punch and just prompted me to type in what time I left. Running late, forget to punch in and fix it at lunchtime. Need a longer lunch without getting a write-up for taking one, forget to clock out for lunch and fix it when you get back. Nobody ever checked and I know of several who took advantage of it every day. When my baby was in the NICU for 2 weeks after birth, I realized if I waited for about 30 seconds, the hospital car park barrier would just open without me having paid. Saved a lot of money. It likely wasn't auto-opening. There's probably a security guard monitoring that gate. They probably knew who you were. This is how it works at our local hospitals. Work allowed us to skip breaks and bank them, but the contract language basically made it so you could bank both 15-minute breaks each day, as well as bank your lunch if you never technically clocked out. So I'd just eat while driving from job to job, and bank an hour a day. Was able to use all that time after a while to take an entire month off of work, paid, without even using any of my assigned PTO. HR got pissy about it and tried to rake me over the coals when I got back, but I pointed out the contract language and they realized their hands were tied. They pushed out a new contract to fix this exploit, but my work contract was still good for another year, so I declined and kept banking time, taking time off when I wanted. Of course they didn't offer me a new contract once mine was up, but I had a better paying job closer to home lined up already anyway, and took the last 2 months off, paid, while I started my new job, so I was basically getting 2 salaries. You're a genius. Free sandwiches from CFA based on location. Used GPS spoofer and got tons of free sandwiches a week on multiple acts. I think I got about $5,000 worth of sandwiches and nuggets before they banned me. How? I used to buy the teacher's edition of textbooks. Tests and quizzes in the back. Lazy teachers never changed a thing. Nobody ever found out. I found a torrent of 150 textbooks for my subject. They were usually the teaching edition too. The clever teachers were just using questions from textbooks that weren't assigned reading. I'd go to their office and check out what textbooks they had on their shelves, then check those. Back in the late 90s with the .com boom, there was a website called Prize Point. You would play one of their many games. When the game was over you would hit a cash out button and win tickets that was based on your score. My computer was running slow with dial-up internet and I was frustrated and hit the cash out button a whole bunch of times. The next thing that popped up was I reached my daily limit of point, something I had never done before. I started doing this every day and reached the daily limit with just one game. The tickets were used like raffle entries for one of their prizes. 1 ticket equals 1 entry. I saved all of mine for months and dumped them into a trip to Hawaii. It was one of my best vacations ever. I was doing genealogical research of my Scottish roots. The Scottish government website uses a credit system, 3 credits for this, 5 credits for that. There was a travel website that would give you a code for 10 free credits for signing up for their email newsletter. I used an anonymous email service to generate one-time use email addresses over and over to get unique codes for free credits. This allowed me to load up on credits and go back a couple hundred years. Eventually they took it down due to inappropriate use, likely when thousands of their monthly newsletters started bouncing back from mailinator. No one ever found out, but they didn't know how to set up Unix when I was in college. You could drop to the parent directory in programming classes and go into the other classmates folders, see how they were coding their projects, just in case you couldn't figure out a section of your code. In my programming class way back in 1999, all assignments were each due by a certain day. You had to save each assignment onto a floppy disk and then hand the disk in monthly. The teacher could see when the assignment was complete by checking the date on the file. I figured out the date was obviously just the last time the file was saved and coincided with the date the computer was set to. Being the procrastinating college student, anytime I did one of the assignments I just adjusted the computer date to the due date before I saved it. This teacher always let me skip class too because I was on the soccer team, so in hindsight I probably didn't even need to do that, haha. About 25 years ago Microsoft had a training program where you would take tests for points depending on your grade. You could use those points for free stuff. The loophole was that if you answered a question wrong, you'd lose your points and it would tell you the correct answer, so you could press the back button, fix your answer, and resubmit. I had gotten myself a bunch of shirts and hats, and even managed to get an inkjet printer before they caught on. Sony used to have similar for video game retailers. We were given a special website, given quizzes on PlayStation games, consoles, accessories, etc. The prizes we got were free games, pens, notebooks. I knew one guy who got a PSP. Coming into senior year in high school, a couple dozen of us were competing for the top 1% for GPA. Honors classes were on a 5.0 scale instead of a 4.0, so gave a big bump to your average. Very few electives were honors, mostly just core classes. One of my friends noticed that there was a Math 1/2 honors class that none of us took. We all took it in middle school and went straight into Math 3/4. We looked up the policy and nothing said you couldn't go back and take a lower level class. So 3 of us signed up for the Honors Math 1/2 course with freshmen. The teacher sat us in the back. I worked on calculus or physics homework or played Minecraft on my phone. Teacher completely ignored us. Half a dozen people did it the next year. The year following, when my younger brother and his friends tried to do it, they changed the policy. I'm a traveling RN, and on one particular assignment the cafeteria staff was under the impression that travel nurses ate for free. Anything we wanted and as much as we wanted. So for almost 6 months I got all of my meals for free, and I also picked up extra stuff for my friends on the unit. Eventually they sent out a hospital-wide email stating that we absolutely do not eat for free and never was supposed to get free food, so that ended that. Fucking snitches. McDonald's app uses to give out free iced coffee with $1 purchase. After doing this daily, they finally nerfed it to $5 purchase for free iced coffee. In Canada during the summer, any size iced coffee is $1. Pretty sweet. October Burrito Place had a deal where you could get 1 free burrito by entering the transaction number from your receipt to get a free burrito. It wouldn't let you use the same email twice, so I just kept creating new random mails. It let you use the receipt from the free burrito to get the next free burrito, so I just got endless free burritos for about 2 years without ever paying. It was a bumfuck highway town and nobody seemed to notice. I'd take my kid there and we'd eat there quite often. I went to high school in the late 90s, when the internet was basically the Wild West. Certain terms and domains were blocked on the school computers, but you could navigate to some pretty shady sites by simply following links. We had a game where we'd start on Disney.com and click links and see who could get to the worst site. It was a mildly amusing way to waste time during class. Similar story, early school days with internet access, lots of domains blocked. But if you knew the IP address of sites, it would go to it. For some reason, a lot of random IP addresses we'd enter would lead to porn sites, oddly enough.